Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is Team Broncos with Austin, Sylvia, and Nancy. We are here to propose a new process innovation we'd like to see implemented at Santa Clara University based on our goal of improving communication and workflows throughout various groups. This particular group have recently emerged to handle additional efforts due to COVID-related requirements. Industry background and overview. The recent global pandemic has changed the way people interact with one another, which has created new challenges as well as opportunities for a large part of the workforce and the education industry as well. Therefore, creative solutions and innovation is needed to shift to remote learning, adjusting to short-term unanticipated expenses, longer-term enrollment declines, and possible mergers and closures of universities that are not in good financial standing or lack good reputation and brand recognition.
SCU has shifted essentially all of its undergrad and graduate courses online. Aside from housing services, which are essentially non-existent, the primary source of revenues come from tuition, which has been declining since the beginning of the pandemic. This has required SCU to carefully review all existing and future expenditures while placing strict holds on all non-essential spending. SCU is offering similar course structures online, along with retrofitting and integrating AV equipment in various buildings. They've increased recording capabilities for professors while introducing new training materials, practices, and techniques for online learning. Their strong physical presence, normally considered a strength, is now a weakness due to the inability to leverage on-premises offerings. Upkeep remains, while revenue streams are pinched tighter and tighter. That said, we believe that SCU will continue to thrive and maintain excellence for their stakeholders, all while having strong groups of professional staff and faculty at the heart of aiding these uncertain times. In addition to other efforts, SCU has also created the COVID-19 Resilience and Recovery Working Group. This group is the larger formation of a collective set of subgroups charged to assist in preserving SCU's core academic mission while maintaining a positive communal environment. Subgroups are tasked to manage various areas that play vital roles in allowing SCU to continue to provide its level of exceptional offerings. Going further, several subgroups have divided teams amongst them. For example, Student Experience subgroup contains smaller internal teams, including social connectedness, diversity and inclusion, as well as new student experience, to name a few.
Issues, opportunities, challenges. Using design thinking with a human-centered solution, we focus on empathy gaining, the first step in the design thinking process. We reached out to several people from SCU's COVID-19 Resilience and Recovery Working Group and set up interviews with them. Adopting an open mind during the interviews to our customers, we recognize recurring trends within the groups. Some key problems included a lack of sharing of information and communication amongst the various subgroups, incidents of duplication of efforts, and unknown objectives. It was not clear who the final decision maker was for given tasks, who was accountable for what, as well as ambiguous deadlines. While the group has proclaimed a set of priorities at the individual level, people still felt that there were unclear items ranging from goals, boundaries, to expectations. Communication was the main problem, including unestablished or unrecognized dependencies and responsibilities. Based on this information, we saw an opportunity for improvement related to overall methods of communication and spread of information. Define expectations for jobs and tasks, using more transparency in decision-making for quickly turning inquiries into answers. Solution and selection process. During our ideation and concept brainstorming activities, we came up with 6 different alternatives that could be implemented to the SCU COVID-19 subgroups. Option 1. Mirroring the steps to scale agile groups with the existing task force in a similar fashion to Spotify, followed with its product development division. Individuals involved in COVID-related teams are informally assigned to breakout working groups while still serving the existing ones. The newly added working group will place staff members with similar tasks, specialties, and skill sets together. The main goal is to spread information through various teams, meetings, discussions, and visual presentation. Option 2. Create an internal project management team, keeping the existing groups intact, while adding project managers to oversee existing work and adopt new methodologies to increase efficiency and effectiveness to alleviate current pain points. Option 3, disband the existing working group and brings on board a full-time COVID task force. Option 4 is similar to option 2 and 3. We hire external consultants who specialize in COVID-related operations. Option 5. This involves the recruitment of many student workers in an effort to gain cheaper labor while adding many more bodies to the groups. Option 6. It looks to create an online information and collaboration portal. And the winner is scaling agile groups. We selected a solution after reviewing SCU's current financial status, interviews and impressions of the staff members, concept screening and scoring matrices. We consider the overall status of the university, the feedback given by the professor, and multiple interviews to propose our solution, looking at pros and cons for each of the above mentioned 6 options from the interviewees, and exercise empathy throughout our testing phase. Through our findings, we recommend that Santa Clara University continues to utilize the existing project-based groups while implementing the initiative of scaling agile groups.
The agile process is also shown as the best ranked option via our Convergent Thinking matrix. Convergent Thinking is the process of refining potential solutions and making a decision. Based on feedback received from our interviews, we ranked all our possible solutions against the criteria mentioned on the left, and the new agile process ranked the highest. For example, there are some barriers to adapt to changes within SCU's COVID resilience group. Some barriers include willingness to adapt, lack of motivation, and lack of trust in the proposed solution. These barriers were lower for the agile process, while it was the highest for hiring external consultants. This was the feedback from the interviewees. About short-term return, the solution that will yield its returns in a short amount of time will be the online portal because it is very straightforward and demands less time to adapt. Similarly, we weighed the solutions against a few other criteria based on our interviews, and the new agile process ranks first, which is also the most delightful solution from the perspective of the interviews, followed closely by the online portal, which is the rational solution. Hiring external consultants is not a feasible solution, but it sure was the darling solution if cost and feasibility were not an issue. There are 2 ways we could implement this new agile process. One way is to roll out the process to all subgroups and get them trained all at the same time. Another way is to start out small with a smaller group. We discussed the 2 ways of implementation with 2 members of the subgroups with these prototypes. This is prototype 1, where we train a subset of SCU's COVID resilience group to follow the new agile process. Based on input from interviewees, we decided to start with just the campus operations subgroup because this subgroup in turn had 5 other subgroups and it was a huge team by itself. Each subgroup is a squad. For example, Squad 1 is the test subgroup. Chapters are groups of staff members from the same department in SCU, but different subgroups. For example, Chapter 1 members will meet regularly just as much as they meet with their respective squads. Each squad will have a team leader. Squads 1 to 3 work in related areas, and they will be called Tribe 1. Tribe 1 will also meet at regular intervals, and they will have one agile coach who will help with the agile process. Similarly, we will have Tribe 2 with similar squads and chapters that meet regularly. Guild members will consist of all squad members from the University Operations Department and anyone interested, and they will meet regularly too to share information with each other. Here is a scenario. This is Bob, and he is a web developer. He meets once a week with all web developers in Chapter 1 to talk about each other's issues. Bob also meets once a week with members of Squad 2 to share updates. Bob also meets once in 2 weeks with guild members who may or may not be web developers, but are interested in knowing about the website that Bob is building, thereby enabling a flow of information across teams. This is prototype 2, where we train all subgroups to follow the new agile process at the same time. All squads, chapters, tribes, and guilds will meet regularly to share information with each other. Preferred prototype. The interviewees prefer to implement with a few subgroups initially to test the process. They wanted to build confidence before taking it to the upper management, and like we learned in class, we empathize with them. This goes back to the first step in the design thinking process, thereby proving that it is not linear. We propose to implement this for 2 weeks first, get feedback from group members, incorporate changes if needed, test for another 2 weeks, and slowly roll out to all subgroups. Key takeaways. There are three key takeaways from this experiment that we did with SCU's COVID resilience group. Firstly, innovation is not a linear process. It is an iterative process. We may have to go back to the beginning for better ideas. Secondly, empathy gaining is very important all along. We had to interact as much as possible with our interviewees to understand the core problem and come up with a solution. We asked a lot of questions, observed, took notes, gave a visualization of our prototypes, and got feedback. Lastly, as a team, we asked a lot of why questions to craft a refined problem statement. We have a Google site prototype that we used when we shared our ideas to our interviewees. It has all the information that our customers, SCU COVID team, in our case, would want to know. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.